Welcome to the After Hours Lounge on 1620 The Zone, the 1620 The Zone app, and 1620thezone.com. When 6A to 6P isn't enough, the boys have you covered. Here's Jimmy Allen
and John Schreiner.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome inside the After Hours Lounge. We're brought to you by Bellevue University. If you're looking for the ideal college experience this winter, head over to bellevue.edu and register for classes today. We're back in the saddle tonight. We appreciate you coming along this 2-hour journey with us. We got a great show lined up for you. ESPN has released their college football playoff predictions. We're going to break those down and talk about them at 6:15. At 6:30, what was John Schreiner wrong about? What was Jimmy Allen right about? And what did we just not see coming in college football this Saturday? We will buy or sell on several topics, including college football at 7 o'clock. At 7:15, we will overreact to the week 2 of the NFL. And then our good friend John Walker from the Omaha World Herald will join us via the telephone at 7:30, not 8:30, as somebody accidentally put in the show lineup tonight. And as always, we will win you some money. Your boy, John Schreiner, is on an 8-1 streak in college football in his last call predictions for the weekend. So hopefully he continues that trend tonight, as we'll give you some winners in college football tonight. Nebraska is off to a 3-0 start, speaking of college football. They're winning by an average of 27.3 points per game.
They played 3 bad football teams, Jimmy.
Let me do the math. That's still really good, though. What did you make of the UNI game? What were your biggest takeaways?
Yeah, I think that my overall takeaway is what a perfect time to see that opponent.
Yeah, I agree.
That could not have been timed any better for Nebraska to see that opponent right before you get into Big Ten play. That is a team that is like a junior varsity Big Ten squad.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see almost a mirror matchup when you see Illinois on Saturday.
Well, yeah.
Just a lot more talent up front, but I think the way they do things, the way they run their offense, the size of running back you're going to see on Friday, is going to look very similar to what you saw Saturday
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've studied Illinois and I know their scheme and it looks similar or dissimilar to Northern Iowa. I don't know that. What I do know is that Illinois is a power running team. So is Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're one-to-one translatable, but big picture, absolutely. You're going to see a team like that on Friday. And I just felt like that was such a good spot for Nebraska to see that team and to go through that where okay, you better bring it when you're tackling these big running backs. And they did not. And now they have that experience of saying okay, if we play like that against a better team, what we were giving up as 5 yards after contact is going to be 15 yards after contact. When we were not making the tackle until 7 yards downfield, we're not going to make the tackle at all because he's going to be gone.
Yeah,
right?
And tomorrow night we're going to talk to Doug Bouchon from Illinois' rival site too, and get his thoughts on the Illini heading into this Friday matchup. The thing, a lot of people, and obviously I was on Big Red Overreaction, that's been pointed out at nauseum in the last 2 days on 1620 The Zone with John Bishop because of modulation issues. But a lot of people were complaining about the tackling on Saturday night, and
it wasn't great.
Nebraska allowed conversions on 5 out of 10 third downs against UNI. But Nebraska only allowed 3 points in that game, and they had 3 drives and with 0 points in Nebraska's territory on Saturday. I will tell you this, there were definitely some flaws. When you give up 50% of third down conversions, that's not going to be
it's troubling.
That's not going to be winning football in the long run. But with that being said, it kind of felt like Nebraska was playing with their food a little bit. Also, you were without Jamari Butler. You were in Mekhi Bear for the first half. And I think those are your 2 vocal leaders on defense. To me, that was those 2 guys not being on the field, and obviously Mekhi Bear because of the targeting call the week before, and then Jamari Butler sounds like he's going to be available for Saturday. So you're probably going to have both those guys back on Saturday. Now, listen, this is college football. There's attrition, there's injury, so things are going to happen. But I think if both those guys are out there start to finish or start to the third quarter, depending on how you want to look at it, it looks a lot different.
So I know a lot of people were wringing their hands over this game. I was not. I thought it was great.
I thought they looked good.
I didn't think that they looked as good as they had, but that's excellent. They absolutely needed this because the first 2 opponents of the year offered very little to zero resistance.
And one of them was Colorado.
Colorado just got eaten alive. And for a team in the spot that Nebraska's in, yeah, there are teams that you're going to be able to eat alive. But not every team in the Big Ten will you be able to do that against. I think Illinois is a team right now You are not just going to blow them off the ball and it's going to be a walkover.
You're never going to do that to a Brett Bielema-led team.
Right? That's not going to happen. So they absolutely needed this kind of performance. They absolutely needed this kind of opponent where, yeah, they were put in some spots. And like when they didn't bring their rear end to the tackle, they got run over.
Yeah, up until this point, Nebraska was averaging 80 yards after contact total between two games. In this game, they averaged 180 yards after contact in this game. So, yeah, I think it's one of those things that, okay, you may be a pretty big bad dog on the block, but you're not going to be the biggest, baddest dog every single time. And this is what it looks like when you don't bring your A game to the performance.
I think, Nebraska was in a place where they had just, sort of exercised the demons and beaten Colorado, feeling pretty good about themselves.
Sure.
You got a FCS team coming into town, noses are up in the air a little bit. And then the first time Northern Iowa gets the ball, they smack you in the mouth. Like they punched you in the face.
See, we say all that to say they still won this game 34-3.
They did.
And they covered.
And they did. That's absolutely right.
But we've seen
the way it looked, I think, was great for this team.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you could put on film, and that's something we've said in the past. Well, you can put this on film and you can get this corrected. I think the one thing you need to take away from this team this year is that it felt like as the game progressed, they got that corrected.
Yeah.
So that tells you that there are in-game adjustments happening, not necessarily just at halftime, but as the game is going on. I think a lot of that is coming from the Nash Hutmakers, the Ty Robinsons of the world, the guys that are out there saying, "No, we're seeing this. We need," because there was that picture that went around on the internet of literally the entire 11 starters on defense only sitting around the tablet, and I think that's you're seeing the communication in progress on Saturdays on the field. What'd you make of Dylan Raiola's first interception?
Nothing much.
Yeah,
it wasn't like he was going to go the whole season without throwing one. Like,
well, I mean,
that was never going to happen.
Thought that was possible.
Well, no one thought no one thought that was possible. It was going to happen. Like, it is what it is, man. Yeah, it was a mistake, and he can learn from it.
Man, I don't even know if it was a mistake. I just think Jalen's got to corral that ball. The defender made an absolutely great play. I'll give you that. I don't know if I'm maybe giving it 20-80 to Dylan, like from a percentage standpoint. I mean, he put the ball where his guy could get it. And as a quarterback, that's basically the only job you have when you're throwing the ball to a receiver that explosive. Like, put it out there, let him go make a play. He's just, in my opinion, he's got to come down with that football.
I don't know. I mean, the coverage was pretty good.
Yeah, listen, the defender made an absolutely good play. I just think Raiola put it where it needed to be.
He threw up a 50-50 ball. It was hopeful. It was a hopeful throw. It was not. Look, you can do that from time to time if you think your guy can
Especially
win.
If you're up 4 touchdowns.
If you think your guy can win, you can do that. But the other thing is, like, was it necessary? Did you have to do that? Did you need to do it in that moment? Did you have to throw up a 50-50 ball there? Was it going to help you?
Do you feel like if you're Dylan Raiola, take off your radio hat for a minute, put the helmet on, you got the green dot on, you're Dylan Raiola. This opponent, with the amount of you've got a lot of time under your belt now with these wide receivers, do you really feel like it's a 50-50 ball in that situation when you have a guy like Jalen Lloyd? Though, like, to me, I get where you're coming in.
Well, it's not like he was wide open.
Yeah, but I mean, literally, he's the guy that bailed you out last year last week on that comeback.
Sure,
run. And he's made some athletic plays, and it's one of those things that you probably feel like you have the superior athlete out on the field.
Just because Colorado couldn't cover their bed with a blanket, like that doesn't mean that it wasn't a 50-50 ball that he threw up to Jalen Lloyd last week too.
I mean, I look at it as a much higher percentage ball than that. Maybe not by a lot, but I feel like it's a little better than a 50-50 ball. There was 2 callers on Big Red Overreaction that gave 2 good points. Well, not one good point and a really good nickname. One caller referred to Ty Robinson as the Vanilla Gorilla, and I don't think I'm ever going to refer to him as anything else other than that.
Isn't there an MMA fiiter who goes by that?
I don't know, but if there is, he needs to retire, and it just needs to be Ty Robinson's nickname. Because if
the Vanilla Gorilla is Mike Neville,
who's also elite at traffic reports. And then the other person called in and made a statement, and he said it as a matter of fact, and I never thought about it this way, but I don't know if I agree with him. He said that Matt Rule knows that this is the best defense he's ever going to have with Dylan Raiola. And I started to think about that sentiment. And when he originally said it, I thought I agreed. But when you think about after Matt Rule talked today, and he talked about Riley Van Poppel redshirting and what he's going to be in the future and how he could be the second coming of Ty Robinson. You think about the fact that Prince Will and Cam Lenhart were both freshman All-Americans a year ago, and they've got a ton of talent on that defense. We've talked about Willis McGahee. The first game he gets in, he has a strip sack, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you believe this is the best defense that let's say it's all sunshine and rainbows, comes up all aces. Dylan Raiola is a 3-year guy and he's off the NFL. Is this the best defense you think Nebraska is going to have in the next 3 years?
Buddy, it's going to be hard to have a better one.
I know. But with that being said, they've got a lot of young talent.
They do. But right now, I would say that I agree because you have two guys who would be playing in the NFL right now who came back for an extra year.
Which their head coach told them to go to, by the way.
They are NFL rookies playing in college football, basically.
And they're trucking their coaches 90 feet when they do chest bumps.
Look, man, I don't know that you're going to have that again.
Yeah, I agree. And from a leadership / experience standpoint, I 100% agree with the sentiment of the caller. I just think with the talent and the speed that they're going to have next year, when you see those guys, what they are now and another year in Corey Campbell's system and the training table and what they can be, I just think that, man, they might be faster, and I don't know if that necessarily means better, but it's going to be interesting to see how that translates.
I don't know that you're ever going to get one better. You might get one that's comparable, but better, it's hard for me to see.
My one takeaway about Dylan Raiola on Saturday from a negative standpoint wasn't the interception. We can agree to disagree on that. It was the third and 1 from the goal line where they had the 2 tight ends set and a fullback in.
You just do not want him to run the ball.
Not even that. Like it's not that. It's you have to have situational awareness in games that are bigger than this. Because if you have 3rd and 1 from the goal line, essentially,
sure,
and you have a 2 tight end set and your big back in and there's a full back in, you got to read the room, man. That's got to be a give 100% of the time. Now, if Dylan didn't lose his footing, maybe he can get around the edge. We can debate that. But with that being said, I still think it's 100% the wrong decision.
Here's why I disagree. Because he made the right read.
Okay.
He's reading the edge defender, and if the edge defender collapses inside, he's supposed to pull it and run it himself. The edge defender collapsed inside. He made the right read. If
Dante Dowdell sneezes hard enough, he gets that ball across the goal line in that situation.
Sure, but football's also about building appropriate habits.
True.
And not doing things just because you feel like it should be the thing. Do the thing because it's the thing you've been taught to do. That's why I disagree.
The other part is, I just really don't want him to get hurt.
Yeah, no, you don't.
And listen, it was a non-contact. He just kind of fell to the ground. But how many times have we seen that tear somebody's ACL?
Sure.
Just hand off the ball, man. Like, this is Northern Iowa.
Well,
Let's just
then
hand
your
the
beef is
ball
not
off.
with Dylan Raiola. Your beef is with the coaching staff because they called his own read.
Yeah, but you just grab your freshman quarterback by the face mask and say, hey, in that situation,
no,
100% of the time,
let him run.
You
they
just
called
let your
zone read. He made the appropriate read. Your beef is not with him; it's with the coaching staff.
No, that means my beef is actually with the equipment guys because we need to get our quarterback better cleats so he doesn't lose his footing on third goal from the goal line. Matt Rule talked to the media today. Brody, we're going to go a little bit long here. Matt Rule talked to the media today and first of all, brought up the fact that there's a Big Ten coaches group chat and how we made it to year 2, game 3 of Matt Rule without knowing this information is amazing to me. What did you make of that when you heard that?
Can I be in it?
Yeah. I wonder if there's just like one number that nobody knows what it is and just assumes
Can
it's
you
Jim
put me
Harbaugh.
on incognito, and I'll just be an observer. I won't contribute. Can I just read the messages?
Over under 6 text messages sent to that group chat after football season starts. Way under, right?
Under.
Yeah.
I wouldn't bet on it. I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah. We learned Micah Mazuka is going to be out again this week. He said he's just dealing with something and that it's a in progress situation, but he's still with the team. Now, Matt Rule has said that twice in back-to-back days. Is it a concern for you that he's going to be with this team in 2 weeks?
The fact that you need to assure us that he's still with the team means it's something that's not great. It's something that we should be concerned about.
You know, I want to get to more of Matt Rule's press conference on the other side of the break because there's a lot to unpack here. We're not going to be able to get this done in a couple of minutes. If you missed the opening segment tonight, check it out at SoundCloud.com/AfterHours1620 or wherever you may find your podcast at. It was brought to you by Amber Best with Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate. If you're looking for your forever home, or maybe you're looking to move your house off the market, if you've been listening to this show for a while, you know how quickly Amber Best moves houses. We've already had 4 listed in just 3 months. and she's moved them all. If you want to sell your house today, work with the best. Work with Amber Best by heading over to AmberBest. That's BESS.com tonight. We'll be right back breaking down Matt Rhule's press conference, not only from today, but from the post game of the Northern Iowa game as well, as we roll on here on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, everybody. John Schreiner here for Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear. You got your Friday night gear ready? I'm talking about this Friday for the big game in Lincoln, Nebraska. You have anything with a little red N on it? Does it look good? Do you like it still? If the answer to that question is no, then you need to get yourself to 78th and Dodge, because Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear has the thing that is going to make your friends say, wow, where did you get that? Johnny O, Mizzen and Maine, Peter Millar, whatever your brand, they've got it, and they've got it with the little Nebraska N on it. You want to look good for Friday night? You want your Friday night gear to be right? Stop by 78th and Dodge. Check out Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear for your polos, your quarter zips, your vests, in any of the colors you want. Red, hey, if you want to wear black, you can wear black. If you want to wear white, wear white. That's fine. Nobody on this show is going to tell you any difference. Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear, 78th and Dodge, dressed in Omaha for over 50 years.
Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7.
Quite warm this evening with the temperature in the 80s. Later tonight, the full harvest moon. Partly cloudy skies. There is a 30% chance of rain toward morning with a low near 70. 40% chance of showers mainly in the morning on Wednesday, then partly cloudy with a high in the mid-80s. I'm Chief
.620 on a Tuesday night edition of the After Hours Lounge, brought to you by Bellevue University. You can keep up to date on all things BU Bruins by downloading the BU Bruins app to your smartphone tonight. Matt Rhule, talked to the media after the game, talked to the media on Monday. We'll hear from him again tomorrow because essentially it's the Thursday before the Friday night game. And we talked about Micah Mazuka a minute ago. And for a guy that seemingly played pretty well through 2 games, it's really
He
weird,
did.
really and seemed to be a pretty focal point in the offense going forward. I mean, that side of the offensive line has been the dominant side up until this point. Really surprising. I mean, it's a meme. I mean, he got in a fight on the field at Florida and seemed like, he got his stuff cleaned up and is pooping a group when he came to Lincoln. You hope that he can get this figured out, but Henry Lutovsky played pretty well in his absence.
Yeah, I had no complaints about the offensive line. Again, it's Northern Iowa. Take that for what it's worth. We're going to find out. We're going to find out a lot on Friday night. I think.
Yeah, and Matt Rule kind of said so himself, but in a different way, because Mitch Sherman asked him a question, and Matt Rule basically ignored the entire question, said, I feel like we're going from being the hunted to the hunter, or we're going from being the hunter to the hunted. And I know they didn't really answer your question, Mitch, but it felt like he walked in there with the sole purpose of, hey, I got to make sure I let my team know that, hey, we're getting chased here a little bit, and we got a number in front of our name, and it's been a long time since that's happened. And again, the team coming to town also in the top 25 today. What did you make of Matt Rule saying, not only giving a non-answer to Mitch Sherman's question, but making sure that talking to his team through the media that, hey, listen, we got a target on our back. That's
what that was. That was Matt Rule making sure that his team understands the situation. I don't think Nebraska can call itself the hunted yet. I don't think they're in the position to be like, hey, we got a target on our back now.
They went on Friday. Does that change your opinion?
No, not really.
Is that because you don't believe Illinois is a top 25 team?
I don't believe Illinois is a top 25 team.
Top 25 team either.
But I don't think Nebraska has enough cachet to garner that respect. Look, this is a team that hasn't been to a bowl game in 7 years. Right?
Forget.
Yes, it's looked good, and we think it's a turnaround. We don't know yet. There's a lot of season left to play.
And all of it remains Big Ten games, by the way.
You are not the hunted until you walk in and everyone goes, that's the team to beat.
Yeah, because, I really don't know if anybody outside of Ohio State right now in the Big Ten is, even Oregon. I don't know if anybody else in the Big Ten is the hunt. And maybe to some degree Michigan because they won the national championship. But
Michigan is way more of a team with a target on its back than Nebraska.
Yeah, and they look like a wounded duck, by the way.
Absolutely. Oregon, compare them to Nebraska, way more of a team with a target on their back.
Like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, ESPN released their college football projections, and Nebraska came in on 18th on that list. So that's for what they see as the current week's rankings. And this is obviously just a model of what it'd be if the quote-unquote college football playoff committee decided to rank these teams.
Defense is really good.
They are. And you haven't had the freshman mistake yet. We talked about the interception, but that obviously, in the grand scheme of things, did not matter. And we talked about this team a year ago and the comedy show that was the offense and what it would look like if that defense had an offense that wasn't even just good, was just respectable.
Sure.
And I think this offense is more than that.
So here's what I'll say. I know that everyone was way out on Satterfield last year. He was the most hated man on the coaching staff. Think about this year. They have a package of things for Dylan Raiola to do that he is very good at doing, and they understand when to use those things and how to put him in situations where he's not really going to make the big mistake. I think that offensive coaching staff, Satterfield, Glenn Thomas is part of it, have done a marvelous job of putting Dylan Raiola in situations where he's comfortable and maximizes the skills that he has.
Yep, I agree. And I think it's a ton of credit to Matt Rule, Marcus Satterfield, and Glenn Thomas. But I also feel like that's the preparation. When you hear Matt Rule talk about Dylan's the first guy in, text me if he can be late for curfew because he's working on film. I think that's why we haven't seen him. Other than that throw to Emmett Johnson that should have been, or was it Ramir? The one that got popped, Ramir, right?
Ramir.
Yeah, that got popped up in the air, and he came down with it against Colorado and ran for a touchdown. That's the one throw where I went, ooh. Like one out of how many ever throws he's had this season where it just felt like, okay, maybe you don't let that one get away from you. The rest of them, including the interception, you can live with. And yes, absolutely a ton of credit. And the improvement that you've seen from Heinrich Haarberg when he's gone in definitely goes into the coaching staff and put him in the right position. But Matt Rule even talked about today. He's like, I'm perfectly fine with us getting out to a big lead and being incredibly boring and vanilla in the second half. And you guys coming here and asking me why we're so boring. Yeah, it's because we're winning.
Yep.
And it seems like it's been a complete philosophy change because, and some people are going to hate to hear this, stealing a little bit of page out of Iowa's book and just being
he said as much.
Good at what you I know, and that's where I was going with this. Good
Playing
at what
match
you do.
quarters coverage, like nothing over the top.
And you see it work over in Iowa City and saying, okay, let's just be really good at what we do and worry about us, and then everything else should take care of itself. Because it feels like, and I know the competition has let it kind of be this way up until this point, it really feels like Nebraska versus Nebraska, and that's it. And you can make the argument when you're doing chasing three and you're really chasing down one game scenarios that the only reason Nebraska's lost those one close games is because they've lost to Nebraska. So if you could get that part figured out and get the mental part of it down, the win should come easy.
And also,
and they have at this point.
Like, not giving up big plays.
Yeah.
It has been a problem. Like, the defense will look great. They'll look great. They'll look great. Bang. Someone gets over the top. There's a score. Now we're in trouble. Right? That has changed this year. They are keeping, like, we're going to just keep you in front of us. And then when the field gets condensed down near the goal line or inside the 20,
really good.
We're going to be really good, and you're going to have to kick a field goal.
And
college kickers, man. Like,
yeah, it's a hashtag for a reason. I will continue to say that. If we're talking about getting to maybe week 7 before Nebraska's in a one score game, you still feel iffy about it, or do you feel confident with what this team has been up to this point? You're not going to feel like you're waiting for the shoe to drop in that situation.
Purdue worries me less now that we've
they're
seen
really
them.
bad.
Now that what happened against Notre Dame and the way they have looked, that was the game I was like, watch out for that one.
Yeah.
Indiana might be that spot now.
I agree.
I didn't think they were going to be as tough as they are. I thought that it might take. No, actually, I don't believe in Curt Cignetti, to be honest with you. And we'll get to that later.
We're on the complete opposite end of that spectrum then.
We're going to talk about this later. But I don't know. I just feel like there isn't anyone that can threaten Nebraska's defense enough to make it all that close.
Isn't that a weird thing to say out loud? This is a team that hasn't won 6 games in 7 seasons.
Sure, but the defense was good enough to win 10 last year.
And then when people told you that they could win 10 games this season, you told us we were all crazy.
Yeah, because you have a freshman quarterback.
Okay. So
the defense is good enough to win 11 games this year.
The defense might be good enough to win 12 games this year.
No.
This defense?
No.
Why?
Because it's always 10-2. If you don't toe the line and stay at the line, you become an overstepper. If you overstep that line, you are a fool.
This is the thing.
10-2 is where we're at.
We've seen so many situations with this program where you look at one side of the ball and go, "Oh, if they just had this level of talent on the other side."
09.
Yeah, like Joe Gans even was like when he graduated, he was like, "If I had that defense a year ago, we probably would have won the national championship." Because I mean, when you have Ndamukong Suh and that Prince Amukamara and those group of guys,
Jared Craig,
you had 7 NFL starters,
most of them on the Washington football team.
Somehow, it's easy to see that, but like this feels like the first iteration. Listen, I know it's 3 games into the season. There's a ton of football left to play, but this feels like the first iteration in a really, really long time where you can look at both sides of the ball and go, that feels championship caliber of talent. You got 2 big-time wide receivers from big-time programs that have played a lot of Division I football. I think the Micah Mazuka thing throws a little bit of into the wrench, but it feels like you may be able to get him back at some point. All 4 of those running backs are playing pretty well up until this point. And then the defense is top 5 in the country, top 3 in points per play. So it's really hard to look at this and go, man, doesn't it kind of feel like Nebraska could play spoiler into that 4-legged race that there could be for a Big Ten championship appearance at the end of the season? Because obviously right now, Ohio State, as we already said, has the target on their back. USC feels like the second best team in the conference right now. Oregon started the season in the top 5.
Penn State's going to win a bunch of games.
Yeah, but they're bad. And I think we can all agree
but they're
on
still
that.
going to win a bunch of games.
And Nebraska could really be in that discussion. Because right now, right today, I think Nebraska's a better team than Penn State.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you haven't watched much Penn State football this year. Did you watch that? Did you watch that West Virginia game?
It just
wasn't
doesn't
great.
feel right to say.
I know, and that's the weirdest part.
That's the weird thing.
I believe in the defense. I still think the offense is limited in some ways.
Is it going to matter though with that defense?
Well,
is it going
it mattered last year. Okay.
Yeah, but it mattered last year because of how many times the offense was like, "Here, you want the ball on our 25-yard line? You can have it right now. All you got to do is say please."
Well, what happens when it's the fourth quarter?
That's the big if right now, right? Because we haven't seen that aspect of it. But you can't look at last year and say, "But they did it last year." But they did it last year because almost all of the cogs in the wheel are completely different on that side of the ball.
I understand. I don't want to make the comparison either. The thing that I'm still waiting on, that I have not come all the way around on, is that I don't think they've played a good team yet. They have
Colorado looked better this week.
They beat Colorado State by 19 points.
They were only a 7.5 point favorite, and a lot of people thought they were gonna maybe even lose that game.
I know, I did. I thought
I
they
did
would
too.
lose.
Listen, I'm one of the people with the egg on my face as well.
Colorado's not good. I don't care who they played this week. Colorado's not good. I watched them play football against Nebraska. I watched them play football the week before against an FCS team. Colorado's no good.
Okay,
that's not a good football team.
I think they're better than they were a year ago. That doesn't make them good.
UTEP is not a good football team.
No, that I agree with.
Northern Iowa,
maybe the best team they've played so far,
is a decent FCS team.
Yeah.
Illinois is playing Big Ten football. Illinois is a real football team. So you might be able to change my mind with a performance this week. For now, I'm still in the reserving judgment category.
We'll save our prediction for the game for tomorrow night. If you missed this segment, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620 or wherever you may find your podcast at. It was brought to you by Controlled Comfort Heating and Air. It's fall. That means you need to get the maintenance done on your HVAC unit. Be prepared so you're not freezing this winter. Head over to controlledcomfort.com. Set up a maintenance appointment so you have a peace of mind when the furnace kicks on this winter. Make sure with the warm weather going away that you get your AC unit checked as well. We'll be right back telling you what we were right about, what we were wrong about, what we just did not see coming in this week college football here on 1620 Zone. Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy Allen here for Bob Williams of Williams Law. Summertime is coming to an end, and if you have an outstanding court date that you just don't have legal representation for, maybe you just have questions about what your rights may be, work with our friend Bob at Williams Law. Head over to WilliamsLawLLC.com tonight. Get a free, no-obligation legal consultation to work with Bob and his team to find out if they're the right person in representation for you in your court date coming up. Check out WilliamsLawLLC.com. Schedule that no-obligation legal consultation tonight. 6:37 on a Tuesday night edition of the After Hours Lounge, brought to you by Bellevue University. Download the BU Bruins app to your smartphone tonight. What were we right about? What were we wrong about? What did we not see coming in week 3 of college football? We'll tell you. I'll start us off. I was right about Memphis. I thought they would win that game against Florida State. And spoiler alert, I think Florida State starts off 0-4, by the way. Cal might be the most underrated team in the country right now. That is a buttoned-up operation. They might have a chance of competing for the ACC as well. What I thought SMU was going to do this season, I think Cal might be that team that kind of has a chance to play against Miami in that championship game. But I think Memphis is really good, and I think Memphis is going to have a shot at the college football playoff as well.
Yeah, Memphis looked pretty good, man. They hung right there with Florida State. So, I mean, I still think Liberty might, because I think Memphis has a chance to lose a game.
Yeah.
Liberty's schedule's so terrible. We're going
to get into buyouts at the buy or sell segment, by the way. Brody, pivot on what I told you to do for the social media soundbite.
What was I right about? Oregon. You guys were throwing dirt on the Ducks.
I was handing Dan landing the shovel.
You guys said Oregon was dead. I said Oregon was primed for a bounce-back performance in the in-state rivalry.
Well, I do have to correct you. I said Oregon was dead. Dan was very adamant that he thought Oregon was going to beat Oregon State.
Oregon bounced back in a good way.
Yeah, they absolutely
They looked like the Oregon that we expected them to be.
I expected what we saw to Washington State out of Oregon State.
Yeah.
And that was not the question. Or not the situation.
Oregon's still that team. They're still really good.
There's still a lot of football left. Dan?
I just want to give us all a bit of a pat on the back.
Oh, all right.
I feel we all deserve it because we all collectively in this room have been right about one thing only. No one should get 8 years worth of college football.
Yeah,
Cam Rising, I don't know what you have or what's going on or how they're going to lop off one of your thumbs or something.
Yeah, it feels like he's got something on the NCAA. Yeah.
But you don't get an 8th year of college football, buddy. Either declare for the draft or make your way down to the insurance offices in the greater Salt
like a
Lake
real
City
man.
area.
Yeah. Did you see that the average age in Utah and Oklahoma State is more than the average age in the Bears game? The quarterbacks this weekend.
The quarterbacks for Utah, Oklahoma State, their total age is 49.
Yeah, 48.
And it was like 47 for
46. Yeah, in the Bears Colts game, because obviously Anthony Richardson is the quarterback for the Colts this weekend. That's
crazy.
This should not be okay.
Alan Bowman.
What were you wrong about this weekend? I was wrong about listen, I was right about the UNLV over Kansas game. We just talked about it. I was dead wrong about the Oregon State game. I thought Oregon State was going to roll in that one, but I was also wrong that Kansas was going to be good. I think Kansas is a bad football team this year.
Not looking good. Not looking good in Lawrence. I'm wrong about Indiana so far. I famously don't like Curt Cignetti, don't like the way he handles the media, don't like his attitude. It started all the way back when he got the job and he said star rankings are ridiculous. How can you trust these people who don't know anything? And so I'm wrong about Indiana for now. We'll see. Because when you're a head coach in the Big Ten and you think star rankings don't matter, I got news for you, pal. We'll see what happens when Curt Cignetti starts recruiting.
Can I caveat that with star rankings probably don't matter at Indiana because you're probably not getting too many guys with 4 or 5s next to their name.
Listen, Dave Bartu's done the math. He's done
I
the
agree.
data.
I think stars matter incredibly when you're talking about getting talent. And that the most talented guys usually have 4 and 5
Over
stars.
70% of games in college football were won by the team that was the better recruiter.
But when it's Indiana and you're not getting those guys, maybe it matters a little bit less.
Then you're going to lose. You better get the stars.
Can I make the point that they may lose anyway, just because they are Indiana? Dan, what were you wrong about?
Taking it back all the way to pre-week 1 when we made our fun college football playoff graphics.
Man, aren't those things dead?
Yeah, I was 100%
so
wrong about my pick for my, group of 5 school that would make it.
Yeah, didn't you pick
Wyoming? Baby. Baby, what is going on? It's time to hang up those cowboy hats and wait for next year. 48-7, 17-13, and 34-14.
Yeah, they asked
you
BYU.
Have not been on the winning side.
They asked BYU to come to Laramie. I don't know what they had, what they thought that was going to do for them.
No, and I mean, my next pick might be Utah State. Who knows? Maybe I'll go
Stay
crazy.
Tuned. What did we not see coming? For me, It was Georgia State. Listen, Vanderbilt absolutely dominated Virginia Tech.
Oh,
in
come on.
week
That was
one.
an overtime game.
They boat raced Alcorn
did
State.
not.
They dominated them.
Not.
Vanderbilt left.
You don't go to overtime and get to be a dominating
Vanderbilt
win.
let Virginia Tech back into that game. They boat raced Alcorn State, which I don't think surprised anybody in week 2. Georgia State absolutely put it on them last week. I did not see that coming.
Well, it's still Vandy.
Apparently.
Yeah.
This is not your James Franklin Vanderbilt.
Well, this is related to what you got right. What I never saw coming was Florida State at 0-3. Like I could not conceptualize Florida State starting this season 0-3. Like that was so far out of the realm of possibilities for me. And here they sit. Like,
if they go 0-12, maybe Florida State needs Scott Frost.
I don't know what is happening in Tallahassee, but it is all bad.
I wonder how much it is a mental thing for them, for the guys that stayed, because you do go 12-0, and you should have played for.
They lost a lot.
I know, but that
DJU looks like the DJU that got run out of Clemson.
Yeah, listen, and he may not have a place in Tallahassee for much longer either. Like that dude is not getting drafted.
You got to do something.
That dude is. I don't care about the intangibles. I don't care that the draft is all upside. I don't think he finishes out the season in Florida State. I think
he's not getting protection, but when he has protection, he's just standing back there like a statue and waiting to get tackled.
Holds onto the football way too long.
That's what I'm saying. Like he just stands back there and waits and waits and waits.
You think Shedeur Sanders hangs onto the football way too long? Go watch a Florida State game,
dude. It's bad. It's so bad.
DJ Uiagalelei makes Shedeur Sanders look like Patrick Mahomes with how quickly he hits the ball.
One of my big criticisms of the Scott Frost era was that they asked Adrian to stand back there and wait for the big play to develop, and it never developed. And he was just hanging out in the pocket, and you got to take the check down at some point, and it was very clear that he was being coached to wait for the big play.
Yeah. I don't think that's the case with DJU.
I don't think that's.
I just think he's bad.
I think he's just not getting rid of the ball.
Yeah, it looks like he doesn't understand the playbook. That's what it looks like. Dan, what did you not see coming?
Honestly, number 13 and number 14 right now in your grossly too early AP rankings. Kansas State and Oklahoma State. I thought
good.
By this time in the season, I thought one of them, at least one of those two, would be a clear number 1 or number 2 within the Big 12. And I just don't see it yet.
Yeah.
In my mind, they're still basically 100% tied. I know Oklahoma State had that week 2 kind of slip up, one would say, against Arkansas. But they did play Arkansas, which is an SEC team. They won, but
Probably
it was
shouldn't have.
It was a bit closer than anyone thought that it would be on either the winning or the losing side. I just cannot separate these two teams in my head right now. I love 13 and 14 in the AP poll for them because I think until we get a clear front runner, it'll be interesting. They're both punching above their weight class at this point in time. Granted, one was a possibly fluke win.
Are you saying both
Arkansas.
teams are worse than you thought? Is that what you're saying?
Much better than I thought.
Oh, okay. I think they're worse than I thought.
I thought one of them would be head and shoulders above the other at this point.
Oh,
but
I see what you're
with
saying. Okay.
Oklahoma State punching up against Arkansas and now K-State punching up against a ranked Arizona team, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks that we're going to see in this Big 12.
We're going to find out what Brody Heidemann went with for Dealer's Choice in social media soundbite. We're going to find out what's trending when we come back. If you missed this segment, check it out, soundcloud.com/afterhours1620 if you like free beer and wings. Now that I got your attention, tomorrow is a Wing Wednesday, courtesy of Cunningham's Pub. All you got to do is follow them on socials, retweet or share out the gift of the post of the wings we post. We're going to get you into a drawing to win a $25 gift card to one of Cunningham's 2 great locations, the Old Mill District or our friends down in Blackstone. Head over to our Twitter page and follow us tonight. We'll be right back finding out what's trending on social media here on 1620 The Zone. Hey everybody, it's Jimmy Allen here for Forsman's Finest Decks. It is that time of year. Maybe you've already got the hay bales out in your front yard or your backyard. Get them off the lawn. Get them on a beautiful deck. Put up your Halloween decorations on the finest deck you can buy with your money. It's with Forsman's Finest Decks. Head over to forsmansfinest.com tonight. Have Travis and the crew come build you a deck, put a cover on it, and add that something your house has been missing. Head over to forsmansfinest.com. Have your dream deck built this spooky season. Forsman's Finest Decks, building the finest decks in Omaha. 6:51 on a Tuesday night here on 1620 The Zone, brought to you by Bellevue University. Get down to Bellevue's campus to catch a basketball game this fall. You can follow the schedules at BUBruins.com. Brody Heidemann, how are you, sir?
It's been a fine evening.
What do we got? What do we got in the hopper tonight?
We got an impersonation of a certain somebody. I think he lives down in Lincoln. He's kind of a known dude
Is this
down
more
there.
Patrick Mahomes stuff?
Maybe.
This is the Huskers head coach Matt Rule out catching Tyson Terry, Omaha North prospect, committed to Nebraska, and throwing dimes to his little brother on the sideline, and it just tells you how personable he is. He held out, if you didn't hear it in the audio there, I'm Dylan Raiola, because he did throw an absolute dart. I mean, we're talking about throwing darts. Our head coach down Lincoln's got one.
The ball's tiny though.
Yeah, I know. It's a nerve size. Brody, trying to talk up Matt and Lincoln here. Don't discourage
Sorry.
what he's got going on. But listen, as small as that ball was, that was pretty impressive throw. He threw about 30 yards.
Hey, Matt Rule's football player.
Yeah. Walked on, the pride of Pennsylvania.
Football guy.
We had a lot of other, Matt Rule's been making the rounds through the community lately, and there was another cute one that I sent Brody where he's got a bunch of kids coming up and slapping him 5 and, giving him the old fist pound, and they're like, hey, when are you going to offer me a scholarship? And he just goes, I'm gonna need to see some highlight tape, boys. Send me that tape.
It's good to be the head coach in Lincoln if you're winning football games, isn't it?
Yep. It's pretty good. Life is easy.
Could Matt Rule be leaving Lincoln for another job at the end of the season? We're going to debate it on Buy or Sell on the other side of the break. If you missed the social media soundbite tonight, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620. It was brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Are you the decision maker in your business? Google yourself right now. Do you like what you see? You know you can change that. Take care of your Google business profile tonight. We're working with Courtney the Google gal, and the folks at Pixel Fire Marketing. Head over to pixelfiremarketing.com for more details tonight. We're buy or selling on the other side of the break. We come back. 1620 The Zone. Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy Allen here for AX Plumbing. Listen, a couple weeks ago, I had some tree roots backing up into our piping. Nick Betts and the crew came out. They diagnosed the issue. They ran their snake down my drain. They were able to get the roots out, diagnose the problem, give me instructions on what to do, cure my pipes, and a whole lot more. If you have tree root issues, head over to axpservice.com and work with Nick and the crew. Maybe you're having plumbing issues and you don't have the financing available to fix your problems. They have financing available. Maybe you're a current or former military member. They have discounts for that as well. Head over to axpservice.com and work with Nick and the crew tonight. Top of the second hour here on 1620 The Zone, brought to you by Pyramid Contractors. You do not become the number one roofer in Omaha for over a decade by accident. Check out pyramidroof.com and book a free estimate tonight. That's right. They'll just give you a free estimate. Come by and tell you, hey, this is what's going to cost to fix things. Pyramidroof.com. It's time for Buy or Sell, where we going to check the pulse of the NFL and buyouts in college football after 3 weeks of it. Brody Heidemann.
Bad news
What's
season.
number one?
The Steelers are 2-0 with Justin Fields at the helm. Russell Wilson is set to be available this week, but Mike Tomlin says that Justin Fields will start this Sunday. Buy or sell that I was right, and Justin Fields is the better option at quarterback in the Steel City.
Both you and Dan Campinen have been on this train for a while. Should we let you answer this first and give you your flowers?
Yes, because both of you were wrong.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
Justin,
Didn't you also say the Steelers were going to lose more games than they would win this year?
No.
There's only been 2 games so far.
No, I am heavy on the train that Mike Tomlin is one of the greatest
Is that
head
you?
coaches that we will ever see.
He picked him to win the division.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. They will win the. Yeah, I did. I
Oh.
said win the division. Mike Tomlin's getting 10 wins because that's what Mike Tomlin does, baby.
Dan.
Mike Tomlin doing
Also-
Mike Tomlin things.
Justin Fields was 100% an unrealized product in Chicago. It has been seen, it has been proven, and I hope that from the hilltops I will be heard. Justin Fields is a good quarterback.
He's done one
All
touchdown,
he
2
needed-
games.
All he needed was some time to actually be in the pocket and throw.
Have you seen his passing chart?
Yeah, he's not good.
It's terrible.
They
It's
played the Falcons and the Broncos, Dan.
John Schreiner. His
Yeah.
passing chart is serviceable.
It's not.
He is completing
have
70.
they
He
not
is
won 2
completing.
games?
He is completing 70% of his passes.
Better than Bryce Young's.
Because he doesn't throw the ball
Listen,
more than 5 yards down the
you-
field.
Unlike my Packers, your
5.
Commanders, and Jimmy's 49ers, Justin Fields has won 2 games.
That is true. That ends this week when they play the chart. Dude, they might lose by 30.
Ooh.
If Harbaugh keeps doing that thing on the sidelines that he's doing to Herbert before every game,
Dan,
I'm loving the pump up.
I'm giving you your credit. You're right for now. You are right. Currently, Justin Fields has been the best option for that team.
Come
You-
talk to me in 2 weeks.
You are right for now.
It's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
I-
Currently, you are right.
Listen,
Currently, you are correct.
they have to play the Chargers, at the Colts, and the Cowboys in the next 3 weeks. They're going 0-3 in that stretch.
I
Not only that, are
am
they going to
here for your confidence. I appreciate it.
Not only are they
Thank
going 0-3, Justin Fields is going to throw a minimum of 5 interceptions in the next 3
5?
games. Take that to the bank.
Wow.
Sell, by the way.
Wow.
Russell Wilson will have this team under his thumb in the next 2 weeks.
I think Russell Wilson becomes the starter
I think he gets
next
traded.
week.
Who?
There is a lot of teams out there that would trade.
No,
for
I'm
him.
asking Russell Wilson or Justin Fields.
Russell Wilson.
Oh, okay. I don't think either one of them are the quarterback next year for what that's worth because
Carolina is going to be looking for a quarterback.
They
Exactly.
already are, by the way. Brody, number 2.
Billy Napier's buyout in Gainesville is north of $27 million.
Chump change.
The Gators are 1-2 with their only win being against Samford. Buy or sell that Napier makes it to October as the head coach of the Gators.
October. That's 2 weeks.
It's 13 days away. 14.
I buy that he'll make it to October. I sell that he makes it to October 15th.
I don't think he's going to make it to October.
Mm.
I think this thing is already on its last legs. I think they are. All the things I'm reading say that they're having closed door meetings with boosters to figure out how they can raise enough cash to get him out.
The board members met. The Board of Regents met last night, so discussions are being had publicly. So
I don't think he makes
not
it.
not a great look.
Well, see, now I'm torn because when Jimmy says that a team will do very badly, the next week they do well. And then when John sticks
true.
behind a team and says they'll do well or they do poorly, they usually follow his results. So
They do play
I'm
Mississippi State
going
this
to-
weekend.
I'm going to buy.
If they lose,
Billy
Mississippi
Napier
State,
is gone.
Yeah, they play Mississippi State on the road in Starkville, and then they have UCF at home.
Mississippi
Oh.
State's not very good.
They
If
are
they
not.
lose to Mississippi State, he's gone.
Yeah,
He's
Either
out.
game.
he can't. But even if he wins those 2 games, they have to go to Knoxville following that. Oh, have you seen Tennessee this year? They're really good at the football.
Yeah. Mississippi State's not good. They might win that game.
They're gonna win that game.
They could feasibly lose to UCF
They could
and
feasibly
lose
lose
to
that game.
Tennessee.
They
But
could feasibly lose to Tennessee.
They could feasibly lose to UCF, and they will lose to Tennessee.
I am more sure that they are going to lose to Tennessee by more than 30 points than I am sitting in this chair.
30.
Yeah, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Write it down.
They smell the blood in the water, and they hate that team. I promise you. If Josh Heupel gets the chance to score 90, he's going to leave the starters out there for it.
Oh,
I think, but honestly, I think Florida might lose.
I don't actually think they're going to score 90. They're going to try.
Florida might lose this weekend, and look, then they got a bye week.
He gets fired on Sunday. If they lose to Mississippi State, he is gone.
It might not matter because they have a bye week coming up.
Yeah,
and that would be a good time to make a change when you have a week.
You can't fire him if he wins, though. If he wins, you can't.
Oh,
fire
you
him.
absolutely certainly can.
You can. It's never going to happen, though. Brody.
Let's keep it in the state of Florida. Mike Norvell's buyout a little higher, $65 million for the head Seminole. Buy or sell, Mike Norvell makes it out of the season as the head coach at Florida State.
That's a lot of money. They got it in Tallahassee. I can't believe that the guy that coached that team a year ago, and listen, I know he started off 0-3 in a previous stint at Florida State too, that he's not going to be able to turn. I'm not willing to throw all the dirt on his grave. Listen, I know I said that I think they're going to lose to Cal, and I do. I think he's able to turn around by the end of the season and forge some sort of saving grace by the end of the year.
I think an undefeated regular season last year buys you enough goodwill to make it through the season at least. So I don't think Norvell's out.
They get California at home, at SMU, and then Clemson at home as well in the next 3 games. I think he's got to win one of those games to save his job.
I'd probably win 2.
Yeah. He's 1-5.
But I mean, it's better than 0-6.
And then they also play
because if he's 0-6, they're going to find that $65 million in a couch sofa somewhere.
And they play Notre Dame down the stretch.
Yeah, and they still got to go to Duke, to Miami, and that game is in South Bend, by the way.
I see 4 losses possibly if they don't make a bowl game.
Yeah, listen, they might need to win on Saturday to make a bowl.
Yeah, well, I just even if they go 5-7, I think he's still the coach.
I agree, and I think that's the least he can have for a win rate. Brody, sorry, Dan. Mike Norvell is he going to be the head coach at the end of the year in Florida State?
Yeah, I buy. Okay. I think he just sticks around because $65 million is too much money for them to come up with, and you have to take into the whole resume. Like, if we're comparing this to Billy Napier, he has not been great.
That's a good point. Yeah,
like Mike Norvell has at least can go back to last year and be like, I did go 12-0.
He did go 0-3 in another season. Though.
I did do this. Now this season, not great. Last season, really great. Like you gotta pick and choose your battles a little bit as a booster in one of these programs, and I think their boosters are probably going to say, let's cool our heels.
He needs to make a change at quarterback.
If Mike Norvell gets that $65 million, he better write Jordan Travis a check.
Ooh, boy.
Brody, last one.
Colorado had a bounce back week. Quinn Ewers got injured on a handoff on Saturday. Buy or sell that Shedeur and Ewers are still the top 2 quarterbacks on the draft board for April's NFL draft.
I sell, and I've sold since before the season started. I still think Cam Ward's the number 1 overall draft pick. I think he's that level of talent. I think he's proving it in Miami. Give me Cam Ward as the top quarterback off the board in April.
I still think it's Ewers. Ewers is the best quarterback for me. Shedeur probably not second anymore. I think the warts have been exposed for him. I think he falls down the list a little bit. So I'm selling halfway.
Danny, going to show us your wristwatch?
He's got one on too.
So to be fair, I do agree with John a little bit in that kind of case in general. Quinn Ewers is still one of the better quarterbacks that we've seen in college football.
He's hurt though. That matters.
And
I think he's going to be fine, but
wasn't it just a hand injury though?
It's his thumb. Yeah.
See, you only need one thumb to throw a football, and I know it's on his throwing hand, but who really cares? You can learn how to throw left-handed.
Arch Manning looked really good.
Yeah,
kind of really good.
Shedeur Sanders is the one who I don't think, if you're wasting a first-round draft pick on him in general in this upcoming draft, you're a fool because you're going to bring him in and you're going to find out, that attitude problem that he has wasn't a real attitude problem, huh? It's just a whole entire person problem. He's got the same exact blown up size head that his father does. And he thinks he's God's gift to women, the earth, and the rap industry.
There's
Just
Dan's real beef.
sit back down.
See, I think he's got the same problem DJ Uiagalelei has. I think he hangs on to the football way too long. I don't think he's very good at getting through his reads. I'm with you, Dan. I wouldn't take him the first round. Brody, you shook your head at us when we said that. Are you still thinking he's a first round talent?
I don't think he's a first round talent. I just think it would be hilarious if he went to a team like the Giants, where he's going to be. Didn't
somebody say the Panthers are looking for a quarterback?
Or even the Panthers? Because
Panthers are going to have the first pick.
Yeah, without a doubt.
There's going to be a team scrambling for a quarterback during this offseason, and it's going to be funny when they somehow wind up with Sanders, and that's what they get.
Dan, do we have a random Dan question tonight?
Yes, actually, we do. And we're going to, since we're on this topic of Florida and the SEC and kind of just being in that area of the country, put yourself in the seats down in Knoxville right now.
It's a good seat to be in right now.
You've bought your ticket to go see a game, but wait.
Oh.
There's an extra 10% on top of that ticket for a talent fee. Yes, Tennessee is adding 10% to the top of their ticket prices for the rest of the season so that they can develop a little bit of NIL money. Buy or sell that is a worthy 10% to pay to watch one of the better college football teams in the country.
In Knoxville, buy and hammer. Here's the problem. This isn't happening only in Knoxville. It might be right now. Give it about 15 days and everybody goes, oh, you can do that.
I didn't know you could do that in this.
Yeah.
We can do that?
Listen, if you thought...
That's legal.
If you thought putting QR codes on the back of helmets was going to be bad enough, and listen, they stopped Oklahoma State from doing it. They're going to need to get that money from somewhere else. Because I don't know if you've noticed this about economics and people that are paying attention. If you start charging rich people more money, they just find a way to make more money. So the fact that people thought they weren't going to have to pay for NIL or revenue sharing.
It was just going to come out of the pocket of the university.
Yeah, that was never going to happen. And listen, if your team's good, you're going to be pretty happy to pay that fee. Now, if you live in Gainesville or Tallahassee, maybe you're not so excited about this prospect.
Pick a city.
Yeah.
What do we do when expenses go up? Pass it on to the consumer.
That's right.
Yeah, this is going to happen a lot of places. It's not going away. But
this is the perfect way to do it, though.
If you're a fan of a team and they tell you, look, you pay 10% more for your ticket, we get better players, we win more games. Who says no?
This is genius.
Who says no?
I can't.
Who complains?
I don't want to say this out loud. I have had several people ask me how they make donations to the NIL Collective, and several people have just been so confused by the process that they've just chosen not to do it. If you can just do it this way, and by the way, I don't know if you know this, Nebraska's 400th sellout is on Friday night, and that stadium is going to be jam-packed. This is coming sooner rather than later, especially two places like Neyland Stadium, like Memorial Stadium, where you're guaranteed to get north of 80,000 people every single game. This is genius. It's brilliant. Because you know what?
So
you can't blame the poor college kids. They need the money.
Face value of a ticket is what? $75?
Yep.
10% is $7.50, right? So
Yeah.
you add $7.50, multiply that by conservatively 86,000. That's an extra $645,000 per home game.
Give or take.
Multiply that by 8.
Yeah. By the way, it could
It's
be more.
$5.1 million a season if you get 8 home games in Nebraska that you can put in your NIL Collective.
Oh, and it's even cheaper in Knoxville. Upper level tickets start at $62 for face value.
So
it's actually cheaper.
And
in Tennessee.
Neyland holds
More people.
100,000
Yep.
people.
107, I think.
And so I love this because, number one, it's great for football because you have the built-in audience that is going to be there.
Oh, that's a good question. Do you think this happens in more than just football?
So I would
That's a good
assume you
point.
do this for men's basketball. I would assume if you're a program like South Carolina, you do this for women's basketball.
Hey, the Devaney
Heck.
Center usually does pretty well.
Heck, if you're LSU and you still have Livy Dunn on your roster for a fifth
good
year,
point.
and you have that many people coming to a home gymnastics meet, tack on that extra 10%.
Does SMU volleyball do it when Nebraska's in town?
Listen, for sizable
Yes.
stadiums around the country, it's $5 million a year.
That'll pay some players. I don't know if you noticed, it's $1 million for a quarterback these days. Hey, if you missed Buy or Sell tonight, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620. It was brought to you by Controlled Comfort Heating and Air. Listen, I was all the way in LA when my air conditioner went out. My wife picked up the phone and called Controlled Comfort. They came out in a matter of minutes, diagnosed the problem, had our air conditioner running in seconds. Have Controlled Comfort come out and take care of your HVAC system this fall. Head over to controlledcomfort.com and book a maintenance scheduled appointment this fall. Head over to controlledcomfort.com tonight and have Tony and the crew help you out. We'll be right back. Overreacting to week 1 in the NFL like we haven't done that already here on 1620 The Zone.
If you're a listener to this radio station, to this radio show, you probably don't have concerns about the legal ramifications surrounding NIL and the collectives and conference realignment, which is what we talk to Bob Williams about on a weekly basis. No, your legal problems are probably a little more simple than that. They involve criminal, civil, various other litigations. And if you have questions about your specific legal situation, then you need to give Bob a call at Williams Law. John Schreiner here for Williams Law. Give him a call at 402-522-6317 and get the answers that you are looking for. Bob's going to give you a no-obligation legal consultation. And you say, yeah, I've heard about no obligation. It's never just that simple. Well, this is one of those times when it actually is. He's going to walk you through the process, explain your rights, and give you a rundown of how he would defend you given your specific legal situation. So give him a call tonight, 402-522-6317. Get the answers you're looking for and get signed up for a no-obligation legal consultation. Or you can check him out at williamslawllc.com.
7:18 on a Tuesday night here on 1620 The Zone. You can always change the topic on the show by asking questions. I believe the gentleman's name is Gary Sharpay on Twitter. Wanted to know what do you tell the season ticket holders in Lincoln who already pay for his tickets, plus the licensing and obviously the donation fee that comes along on top of that? That's a ton of money.
Yep.
I mean, listen, you have corporations.
Season tickets are not cheap.
You have corporations who have kept the sellout streak alive, and there have been other monetary donations coming in for them. But that's a great question because you got a lot of families that forego going on vacations to make sure they can afford Husker tickets. But you can't have the head coach come out and say a quarterback costs $1 million.
Yep, and
just expect that money is going to show up from the tooth fairy. Like, it's going to have to come from everywhere because, listen, if you're paying the quarterback $1 million, it's probably a really big and I don't think that's what Dylan Raiola is making quite from the NIL collective, but that's going to be a big chunk going forward. If you want to continue to get guys like Dylan Raiola, like, I don't know, Dayton Raiola, you're going to need a pretty chunk change to be able to take care of that talent level. And on top of that, you got to pay other guys to come be a part of this as well. There's a reason that David Sanders Jr. picked Tennessee over Nebraska. It has nothing to do with facilities, by the way.
It has. It's kind of shaped like an S, and it has two lines through it.
Yeah,
it's a dollar sign.
But I mean, the flip side of that, like, I think the reason you're able to do this in Knoxville right now, specifically at Tennessee, is they're really good.
Oh, they're very good. And look,
and that's
Josh Heupel's a good coach.
Yeah, and that's going to help because it's one thing, and I think this is going to happen everywhere. I do. This is only going to be an issue if you're losing.
Yep.
Like anybody going to Lincoln on Saturday would be glad to hand you their $750 tomorrow.
It's going to be a point of contention as soon as your team loses a game you didn't think that they were supposed to lose, and all the message boards are going to say, "I paid an extra $750 for this crap." Like that's going to be a very common post.
And you know where this is going to become an issue at is Matt Rule has talked openly about, hey, we can't really schedule the big boys anymore because we got to win football games. Now, that same tax is going to be – now, there are games in Lincoln that are, usually $125 instead of $75 when Ohio State comes to town, the bigger games, etc. But this is the other place where it's going to – if you're not winning or if you're playing Northern Iowa and directional school of the deaf every 4 days because you just want to try to get those easy wins on your schedule, that's where the problems are going to come in, not necessarily – at the Michigans and the Ohio States.
But my answer is, okay, you can pay the extra at $750 and get higher caliber players because you can attract them with NIL deals. Or you cannot do that and fall behind.
Yeah.
Right? One of them is going to give you a better chance at winning. Doesn't guarantee it, but it's going to give you a better chance. The other way pretty much guarantees that you won't win.
Yeah, it is going to be an interesting debate for the people who already donate, though. Like, for somebody that calls up 1890 and says, here's a pretty sizable check.
The squeeze is real.
Yeah.
The squeeze is real. This was always going to happen. As soon as we opened the door to players getting paid, did you think that the schools were just going to take less money? No, they were not.
Yeah, they're not restructuring coaches' contracts
right
now.
The coaches are not going to make less. The schools are not just going to have less money in their coffers. Like, that was never going to happen. The money's got to come from somewhere, and it was always going to come from you. Like, that's the answer. It was always going to come from the fans.
Rich people don't let their pockets get lighter by accident. Let's overreact to week 2 of the NFL. My first overreaction is Nick Sirianni will not make it out of this season as the head coach.
That was a bad call.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be able to turn this around and maybe figure it out to some degree and make it look somewhat what it looked like on the Super Bowl run. I never thought they were going to be overly successful this year. It's really hard for people not to root for Jalen Hurts. Like, I think a lot of people like Jalen Hurts, but I think you're going to have a lot of people just rooting against the Eagles because Nick Sirianni is such an unlikely
Because
person.
Eagles fans are so bad.
What was your first overreaction?
I done told y'all about them Saints.
You did. You said they were going to be good this year. I will give you that.
I said that they would win the NFC South. I'm actually kind of concerned about the Buccaneers too.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers look really good. But listen, man, there's some sort of renaissance going on with Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara. Like, Their defense.
Yeah, congratulations to anybody that drafted Alvin Kamara in your fantasy league.
That defense has never really fallen off that badly. They've always been pretty good on defense. They have an offense this year. Like, they are scary.
So
that is a scary football team.
So you think what you've seen out of 2 weeks is sustainable from them?
It certainly appears that way.
Yeah, I do too, because I've heard some people that feel otherwise. Dan, overreaction number one?
Overreaction number one. If there is any justice in this world and NFL voters actually believe in the product that they're selling, then Josh Allen will be your MVP this year. Welcome, folks, to the revenge tour. Josh Allen, for too long, has said, I am too big, I am too tall, and I am too shifty, fun, and fast.
And handsome.
For you people to... No, he is not handsome.
That is a good-looking man.
No, it is not. For you people to ignore me for too long.
Looks like Andy Dwyer.
He is absolutely willing the Bills to get wins this year. His stats are not going to be impressive, but you know what matters is the fact that he is going to win football games.
That he does look like Andy Dwyer. Good call. I didn't know that was his name.
Chris Pratt.
Yeah. Brody, do you have an overreaction to the NFL?
The Rams suck. And honestly,
I think that's
we have I can't remember how many guys it is on IR, but the season's over. I'm joining John's boat. There's no way we crawl out of this.
I don't think that's an overreaction. I think that's a proper
reaction. True.
My number two may fall in the same boat as not necessarily being an overreaction, just accurate. The Carolina Panthers are not going to win a football game this year. I'm a lot higher on Andy Dalton over his overall career, but handing him the keys to a franchise at this point in his life and shipping off another quarterback, Bryce Young has been benched. And that experience feels like it's over in Charlotte. I hope they're good enough to ship him out to a place that may give him a new lease on life. Because, I mean, look at what Sam Darnold did on Sunday. Look what Christian McCaffrey has been since he left.
Yeah.
Look at Matt Rule. There's just proof in the pudding that life is just better after you leave the Carolina Panthers.
Did you read the Athletics article about Sam Darnold?
I did not.
So they have a former athletic writer who he was in NFL front office. I forget the guy's name, but he was in NFL front offices. Then he wrote for the Atlantic for a while, and now he's back in a front office somewhere. And he had been someone who was breaking down Sam Darnold's film and said, like, this is actually a good quarterback. He's just been put in a lot of terrible situations on bad football teams and was really high on him having a renaissance year in Minnesota.
This is the same guy that took a snap, dropped back, and then threw the ball backwards by accident once. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with all that, but okay.
But, I mean, Sam Darnold looks like a competent quarterback. And I don't know that there is one that's under the age of 35 in Carolina.
You're out on Bryce Young then. You think it's Bryce Young is also a part of the problem, not just the Panthers organization.
Third worst QBR through 2 seasons since ESPN began tracking it.
Or
through 2 weeks.
Do you know who is just slightly above him on that list though? Sam Darnold when he was in Carolina. So I mean, it's not like
this seems like a Carolina problem.
I have hit the point.
This is a Dave Tepper in the GM not building an offensive line for any of their quarterbacks.
Or an offense, period.
I'm at the point where I just don't assume anybody that plays for the Carolina Panthers, coaches for the Carolina Panthers, is a bad player or a coach. I will always have the wait and see model if you've ever spent time in Carolina at this point.
Just real quick, look at Adam Thielen. When he was a Viking, everyone was like, look at this amazing guy.
I cannot
look at this great wide receiver. And now he's in Carolina, and it's like he is their best wide receiver. And no knock to Adam Thielen because he is an extremely good wide receiver.
Yeah, that dude's.
But he is just falling off of a cliff.
Listen, if your quarterback doesn't have more than half a second to throw the football, it's kind of hard to be a good wide receiver. Overreaction number 2.
Washington won the battle of the incompetents, which means they are tied for the lead in the NFC East. Did anyone see this coming?
Yeah,
I know I did not.
I did. I told you as much. I told you I thought Jaden Daniels was going to win Rookie of the Year too.
It looks like now, from what we've seen, the Eagles made one of the dumbest decisions in the history of football, throwing the ball on third down when all they needed to do was run out the clock.
The Saquon Barkley throw?
Yes.
By the way, he has the most drops of a running back over the last 6 seasons in the NFL. So not only did they make the decision, they threw it to that guy in that situation.
Dallas needs to remove all the D's from their building because they have no defense.
They're going to be fine.
And the Giants are obviously terrible.
Oh, are they?
Washington, look, this is the team that I root for. They're bad. They're not good. They have not, like, Jaden Daniels hasn't thrown an offensive touchdown yet. He has not thrown a touchdown pass.
He doesn't really have anybody to throw to.
He's Terry McLaurin. Okay, stop with the disrespect of Washington's wide receiving room. Terry McLaurin's good.
He's okay.
The NFC East is wide open.
Is it the
it's
NFC
up for the taking?
Is it the NFC least again? Are we back to that?
No. You're going to hear what the worst division of football is in my next
coming
one.
soon. Okay, Dan, overreaction number 2.
You know, in my life, I've learned a few things. It's Arizona is hot, and there are a lot of cactuses. And Kyler Murray finally learned something this weekend. Turns out, if you throw the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr., he's gonna score.
Yeah, he's good.
Finally, it took him 2 weeks to get into his head. Hey, maybe this rookie wide receiver that we sold out for and got a bunch of picks for and decided to draft in the first round is actually going to be really good at football.
4 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, by the way.
Yeah.
He's a rookie.
It turns out he is probably going to win Rookie of the Year. He is my bet now for Rookie of the Year.
James Conner's having himself a first couple of games too, by the way.
You know who's going to win Rookie of the Year? He's a Las Vegas Raider. He's a tight end.
Ooh.
And he leads the tight ends in receiving yards. Brock Bowers.
Yeah, so much for wondering if he was going to be able to bounce back from the ACL tear, huh?
Yeah.
We'll do this really quickly. My number 3 is Tua Tagovailoa. We'll start a game in the NFL again.
The AFC South is a trash festival. Houston's good. The other 3 teams are awful.
I don't know if I'm willing to say Indianapolis is awful. Yet,
they're very bad.
But they're not great. Dan, quick number 3.
The Bears still suck.
Caleb Williams is still overrated.
Okay, there you go. We got to get to our guy, John Walker from the Omaha World Herald. He'll join us on the other side of the break. If you missed our overreaction to week 2 of the NFL, check it out at soundcloud.com/after hours 1620. It was brought to you by Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear. It is the premier suit buying experience in the Midwest. Maybe you know somebody that's got a big day coming up, and unfortunately, it's on a Saturday during college football, and you've given in, and you're going to go to the wedding. Stop by Jerry Ryan, pick yourself up a suit. You'll upstage the groomsmen, anybody else in the wedding party, or maybe you're the person that's one of those awful human beings that's having a wedding during football season. Have you and your groomsmen dressed by the best suit designers in the Midwest. It's Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear. Stop by and get a free alteration this week. John Walker from the Omaha World Herald coming up next here on 1620 Zone.
You might be a terrible person who has your wedding on a Saturday during football season, but you know how you can make it up to your groomsmen and anyone in your wedding party? By getting them some pepper jacks. Just like me, you decide to have a wedding on a stinking Saturday, so you got to get your groomsmen steak gunner Phillies with all the vegetables, including that jalapeno juice. And of course, if you're going to get fries, just tell them to give you a whole bag of them. Get extra ranch, because it is the only way that you are going to have people not mad at you for an entire Saturday. So if you want to be just like Dan Campanen and be a little bit dumb, but also full, go to Pepper Jacks tonight.
7:35 on a Tuesday night here on 1620 The Zone, brought to you by Pyramid Contractors. Head over to pyramidroof.com tonight. Book yourself a free estimate if you're dealing with gutter, siding, windows, or roofing issues. Pyramidroof.com. Never settle for less. You never have to settle for less if you follow John Walker on Twitter at @byjohnwalker, who joins us now here on 1620 The Zone. John, good evening. How are you?
Man, I'm good. How are you guys? It's been a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we've kind of fallen behind on the schedule. We apologize. We got through 3 games of you being up in the press box at Memorial Stadium. Before we talk about the product on the field, what are your thoughts about the accommodations in Lincoln?
Yeah, no, it's sick, man. I think I kind of picked up on that like in the UTEP game. But especially in the Colorado game, I was just like, yeah, this is different.
Have you cashed?
Sure. I've loved it.
Have you cashed in on the free ice cream yet?
No.
Oh, you're missing out.
No,
dude. You're missing
free
out.
Ice cream.
I'll text you after we get off here. I'll give you the instructions on what to do.
Yeah.
Hey, John, just looking back at this past week, you were there. You watched the game against Northern Iowa. Nebraska had some struggles with tackling. I said early on that this was the perfect time for this to happen for Nebraska. I thought they came in feeling their oats a little bit, got a little bit of humble pie without looking bad doing it. What was your take on that performance?
Yeah, funny enough, I had the report card. I had the World Herald's report card for that game, and I simply graded it all around a B+.
Agreed.
Because there was a time not too long ago where Nebraska fans would have done a lot of maybe illegal things for a 31-point win. And so for Nebraska fans, and more importantly for Nebraska to be able to come out of that game and say, hey, we won by 31 and we're disappointed about it. Like that is a really good place to be entering Big Ten play. But yeah, I mean, that was, I think the lowest graded part I had in them was the run defense. And it was primarily because of the tackling in the first half. It got better in the second. But yeah, it was pretty ugly there at times in the first half. And I think Isaac Gifford was, more than open about that.
Yeah.
In the post game. But yeah, I mean, like you guys said, what better time could you have asked for that to happen before you play a really, really physical team in Illinois that, the Huskers fully expect to be a fist fight.
What did you make of Matt Rhule's comments today when he said Nebraska is more of the hunted than the hunter at this point?
Just the fact that, they have Dylan Raiola, they have beaten Colorado in a nationally televised game. They have all the hype of this freshman quarterback and this resurgence. So maybe game by game wise, I don't know if they're the hunted, right? Like, are they going to be the hunted when they go to Columbus? No,
probably not.
No. But comparatively, yeah, I guess to most teams, they probably are. Not every team gets, the number 2 quarterback in the class, and he does well as a freshman, and you beat Dion and Shadur and Shiloh Sanders and Travis Hunter on national TV. So, I get it in some sense. They've got to keep winning for them to be like the week in, week out hunted, obviously.
You guys probably are just like everybody else and just throwing a coin up in the air and trying to figure out who's going to win the Heisman Trophy this year. Who do you have as the front runner right now?
Dude, is there a front runner?
I've been saying it's Cam Ward. I'm on the Cam Ward train.
Yeah. I mean, Cam Ward's made a heck of a case so far, but I think we all know that there will be some type of infamous Miami moment later in the season.
Sure.
Dude, I really have no clue. I don't know if there's like a clear and away favorite for me right now. I assume maybe Travis Hunter will be in that conversation again, just because of the two-way play, right? Like if you're playing that well both ways, like you're probably going to be in that conversation.
Could be the first player since like
front runner.
Could be the first player since like before World War II to win the Heisman on a losing team.
Yeah, no, literally, and that's exactly why he won't win it. But everybody preseason was like, "Oh, Carson Beck," and he looked really mediocre mediocre, candidly, in last week's 13-12 win at Kentucky.
Probably should have been a loss. Yep.
Right. So, there's your front runner having a, kind of stinker of a game early on. Can he bounce back? Sure. I mean, we're talking about the quarterback for Georgia. But yeah, I don't know if I have a front runner right now.
I want to flip over to volleyball for a minute. Creighton played 2 top 5 teams in the last couple of weeks. They went to 5 sets with both of them. But this is a program that's made no bones about the fact that they don't want moral victories anymore. They're after something bigger, Elite 8, Final 4. Just the performances over the last week, there's some things to feel good about, but they didn't come up with the big win.
No, and that's exactly right. There are things to feel good about. If you could tell Creighton going into the season, hey, you're going to play a couple of top 5 teams when you play Nebraska and Louisville, in Lincoln, and you're going to lose in 5 sets. Now, there are no moral victories, and they don't want them. Creighton doesn't want them, but those are pretty darn good moral victories.
Yeah.
And it just kind of shows that Creighton can hang with title contenders. And we're not just talking about those teams that are hovering at maybe ranked 15 and 20 and, oh man, if they got hot. No, we're talking about like the heavy hitters of the country. They can hang with them. They just have to avoid 0-2 holes because they've had to, kind of spend themselves in sets 3 and 4 in both of those matches. And then, they end up falling short in set 5. So, yeah, I think it's really, I'm sure it's easier said than done, duh. But
yeah.
but I think it would go a long way to just avoid the 0-2 holes, and they would be fine. Maybe they pull out one of those 2 last week.
We're catching up with John Walker from the Omaha World Herald here on the After Hours Lounge. Speaking of Creighton, it's just 50 days till tip-off for the men's basketball team. Who are you looking forward to seeing on the court the most this season when Creighton takes on Texas Grandview?
I think the obvious answer has to be Pop Isaac. We know what Creighton lost in Trey Alexander. We also know what they lost in Baylor Shireman. So I'm interested to see how Greg McDermott replaces that production. But the fact of the matter is Pop Isaacs was brought to Creighton to replace Trey Alexander. And so that's, they have to, I think Baylor and Trey accounted for like 48-point-something% of the Jays' points last year. And I think Trey averaged 17. That's a big hole to fill in the Big East. And I understand Pop's coming from the Big 12, obviously, so going from one of the best basketball conferences to another one of the best basketball conferences, you're probably going to be okay. But yeah, I've got my eyes on Pop Isaac because he is kind of the playmaking, high volume shot guy that is supposed to, be able to get his own bucket and in crunch time. And yeah, so it's Pop Isaac for me.
4 days ago, we got the news that Hudson Greer, top 50 recruit, was committing to Creighton. How big is this for the Blue Jays, and what did you make of the commitment? Beating out Kansas and Alabama.
Yeah, it's pretty huge. Depending on what recruiting service you use, he's the highest rated recruit in program history. It's interesting. I want to clarify something on that real quick because I saw so many things last week that were like, he is the highest rated,
Yeah.
and he's 27th. And this is not to take anything away from Hudson Greer, obviously, but he's 27th in ESPN. So he's the highest rated. I think Jackson McAndrew was like 36.
Correct.
But Hudson Greer and Jackson McAndrew are graded the same. They're both an 88 in ESPN. So that, for example, so depending on what service you look at, he's the highest rated recruit in program history. Take all that, throw it out the window, and it's still a massive recruiting win for Greg McDermott and the Jays. When you can get a guy over a couple of Final Four teams, a couple of, again, title contenders, you're doing something right. And they've been in on Hudson Greer for a while, and it pays off. He mentioned, I want a good relationship with the coaching staff. I want to eventually play in the NBA one day. And so I want that coaching staff to be able to develop me. And we just saw, in part what Creighton was able to do with Baylor Shireman in a bigger role his senior year. And I could see Hudson Greer playing a similar role eventually. It's not going to look exactly like Baylor Shireman made it look. But, I could see him playing that right there in the middle of the lineup, can score when you absolutely need him to from wherever you need it to be, and can get some rebounds and play gritty defense. So, no, massive recruiting win. Their first pickup in the class. So it's off to a pretty good start, I'd say.
We got the Big East schedule last week as well. Which game stood out to you the most?
So, I really think it's that this is the obvious answer. That 6-game stretch in late January / early February. They had one of those kind of like hellacious 6-game stretches to end last year, if you guys remember. And I think they finished 4-2 in that, maybe 5-1. I can't remember. But they have a similar one this year where it's 17 days, 6-game stretch. They'll host Xavier, and then it's Nova, Providence, Marquette, UConn, St. John. That is a brutal stretch.
Yes,
against,
it is.
I'm assuming here, including Creighton, 6 of the top 7 teams in the league. And so if Creighton is going to be the team to push UConn, for the Big East, you have to come out of that stretch alive. It's a pretty make or break stretch. It's the difference between finishing as the 2 seed in the Big East when you go to New York, or the 5 seed. It's pretty big. So that one for sure. But then the ones that really stick out to me are, where was it? Oh, the UConn Marquette back to back.
I was just about to ask.
It's going to be mentally taxing, I'm sure. Probably not easy to play those games, 3 days apart, UConn and Marquette, but you get the help of what's usually a really rowdy CHI Health Center. And so that will help, but man, that is that's a part of that 6-game stretch, but specifically UConn Marquette back to back is just nuts.
John, did you get everything you needed at Target?
I did. So I actually was only there. I was driving around doing some other stuff, and then I had passed most of the stores on my way home. And remember, I needed lunch meat. And
you can't miss on the lunch meat. You gotta have.
Yeah, so I just stopped and got some lunch meat. Did you get everything you needed?
I did. Yeah, my kids got lunches for the week now. Everything's all good.
What's the go-to at the deli counter?
Well, so at Target, I just get the prepackaged stuff. Gas.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, but here's what I've discovered in the last month or so.
Oh, is this a life hack?
Target has a in their prepackaged deli meat, they have a sliced chicken breast with rotisserie style seasoning.
Okay.
Doesn't miss.
All right.
We give you all the necessary info here on the After Hours Lounge. John, we appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
That's John Walker. You can find all of his work at by John Walker on Twitter, and obviously everything at omaha.com or in the Omaha World Herald. If you missed John's segment tonight, you can get it back on a radio replay at 1620thezone.com. Under the After Hours tab, it was brought to you by AX Plumbing. Home or residential, they can do it all. Check out axpservice.com for all your plumbing, water heater, gas piping, or backflow prevention issues. AX Plumbing is locally owned and operated and will leave your home cleaner than they found it. Check out axpservice.com tonight. We'll be right back winning you some money here on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, everybody. John Schreiner here for Cunningham's Pub and Grill. Can't wait for tomorrow. You know what it is. It's Wing Wednesday. We get the delicious wings from Cunningham's. You had the delicious wings from Cunningham's? You need to go get yourself some delicious wings from Cunningham's. They're smoked. They get them in their favorite sauce, blueberry sriracha, Caribbean jerk, the house buffalo, different than any buffalo you've ever had. I promise you, it's fantastic. And last week they brought us some of those great appetizers. You get the wings, you get the other appetizers. The BLT bites are delicious. Everything on the menu at Cunningham's doesn't miss. Plus, they've got all the great beer selections that you're looking for and the TVs with any game that you want on football weekends. It is a great time at Cunningham's. They got 2 locations, Old Mill, Blackstone. You need to get yourself there tonight, tomorrow, the next day, and on the weekend for some great sports action and delicious food. It's Cunningham's Pub and Grill. They never miss.
Closing her down on a Tuesday night here on 1620 Zone, brought to you by Pyramid Contractors. Head over to pyramidroof.com and book a free estimate today. We got to be on the run tonight. As we mentioned earlier in the show, John Schreiner went 3-0 this weekend. I went 2-1. Dan went 1-1-1. We'll try to go 9-0 tonight. In our college football picks, give me Dan, I'm looking at your picks from last week. Tonight, give me John, go first. I'm sorry, I scrolled down way too far.
I got Oregon State -5.5 at home against Purdue. Purdue's very bad. Oregon State's coming off a loss where they're going to be hungry in their in-state rival. Give me Oregon State. Over-unders, I got NC State Clemson. Both these teams are going to score points. Give me over 47 points in that game. And Arkansas Auburn for my prop bet. First quarter, over 13.5. 6 first quarters played between these two teams. Only one time was it under 13 points. There was 13 points exactly, Arkansas versus UAB. So take the over first quarter, Arkansas Auburn.
Sorry, back on it. I got Nebraska minus, give me 10.5. I think they absolutely roll on Friday night. I think they win by double digits over Brett Bielema and crew. Give me the under of 51.5 in Ohio State and Marshall. I think Ohio State wins that game 49-0. And then give me the Iowa State to be up by a half point at the end of the first quarter in Arkansas State and Iowa State. Dan?
USC is making the trip to the big house this weekend. Give me USC minus 6.5 in that game. UCLA going out and playing in the SEC at LSU. Give me over 56.5 in that game.
Probably all scored by
LSU can do that, do it on their own. And my favorite prop bet every single week, Oklahoma State will be the first to 30 points this weekend as they take on Utah.
Oof. I don't know about that. That Utah defense. We'll see if it works out. It always works out when you listen to the After Hours Lounge. Check it out wherever you find your podcasts at. Our bets tonight were brought to you courtesy of Warhorse Casino and Sportsbook off 63rd and Q. Slots, table games, and yes, their sportsbook is open. If you know someone who has a gambling problem, call 402-806-7344 tonight. For Dan Campen and Brody Heidemann, John Schreiner, I've been Jimmy Allen. Happy National Apple Dumpling Day.
Apple pie.